gentleman I had on just a few days ago, he was the one that facilitated the journey.
Yes.
And he was talking about like there's like 50 times more information sent from your heart to your brain than your brain to your heart. And if there's a blockage there, you're missing out on so much of that information. And what he taught me to do was like self-muscle testing, right? So if you're asking your body, it's amazing. Yes. It is amazing. And one of those things I would have said nonsense before I did it.
Right.
And you cannot, like all of that somatic stuff, I'm like, I need to do a deep dive, and I want to learn so much more because I firsthand experienced it and I just know it to be true now. Yes. So I just did the same thing. I had this really big event in September that we got invited to, and I was asking who I wanted to invite, and my husband's like, we have 2 extra tickets you want to invite, and it was like a toss-up, and one of them I was thinking this is who I should invite, and the other one I was like, I wanted to be there, like I knew that, but I was like, let's do the muscle test, and it was like night and day, and I was, I'm gonna honor this, and I'm gonna listen to my body. And again, going to like, for me specifically, how much I can't trust my mind, I think the way that my husband kind of broke it down for me is like, yes, your body is obviously like a very clear channel right now. So listen to that. But the other flip side is that now there's a beautiful opportunity to control the mind, and like, and you do that through meditation and breath work. So it's saying this isn't where it necessarily needs to be. Like you're getting almost too much stuff that's not yours, not meant for you. And that's what's getting in your own way. So until you can master the mind, not control, I should say, master the mind, listen to your body, honor that, but also like do what is necessary to get rid of a lot of that chatter and a lot of that just like distraction, right? Because I think coherence is probably the goal, like body, mind, spirit. So right now, body is the tool I have. That's what's working. So lean into that. But now opportunity to work on mind and spirit to get everything coherent.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, you know, I take women through when they start working with me a really beautiful womb meditation, because I think for women, there is a connection to there's that infinite portal, like the potentiality of the universe literally inside of a woman's body, the creation and possibility that it is housed there, that infinite creativity that we don't source from at all. We are so disconnected from, and you can see it with the levels of endometriosis and fibroids and cancer and all of the things that happen for women, because we are so disconnected. There's so much shame that lives between a woman's head, like from her navel down, like the amount of shame that is coded there for women. And so I think connecting women in my work, connecting them first and foremost to their womb, even if they've had a hysterectomy, to that womb space, all of that power still lives there. That is when I see my clients begin to blossom and open into ways of that they never even could have imagined or expected for themselves, because they're trusting from that internal GPS, that internal source code, that in a very patriarchal world with very, very few female role models and leaders, we still don't have languaging that is just for women on these kinds of journeys. So one of my friends, my best friend, we were going off grid in October in New Mexico to go camping for a couple of days. And she's driving and she's telling me about this book she read and this podcast she listened to. And at one point I stopped and I looked at her and I said, why do you never learn from women? Why is it every time you talk about something you read or listened to, it's always a man? Where are the female leaders that you drive from and like learn from and get inspired by? And she looked at me and she's like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. So her and I really went on this deep dive. We're like, where are the female leaders? Name them. Name like the big revolutionary, like public intellectuals, thought leaders, thought changers, movers, makers for women in a way that brings that power and internal growth and spirituality all online. Where are they?
I would say the only one I can think of that I think is doing it the way that you're describing is probably Gabby Reese. She's Laird Hamilton's wife. So I think that her lens is feminine and like it's like self-development through her perspective, which I think is beautiful. I think a lot of the women that I'm even thinking of now, even though really popular ones, like it's still very masculine.
It's very masculine.
It's like driven, like boxes to kind of tick. And you know, we all have both. And I think it's balance looks different in everyone, but I think most women, and correct me if you disagree, but I think most women are in their masculine.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're already there and then you're consuming everything that's masculine, you're compounding it. So while I think there's always like a time and space that you will need to tap into that for sure.
Of course.
But it's like, don't live there. So you have to balance back out. So where are you creating that balance for yourself? And it's so hard because besides Gabby, I don't really know like feminine women in this space that I'm like, I want to learn from.
Right. And that is such a huge deficit. I'm all for all of this growth that we are talking about, but I am exhausted listening to men tell me about an experience that I can't incorporate and I can't really reach for. There are elements here and there, yes, but I have yet to find that woman that takes me on this incredible journey inside of my feminine power. I already know, I've got my masculine figured out. I already know. And you know, I know what I'm doing there for the most part. I could probably surrender into a little bit more of the divine masculine. Sometimes it's a little bit wounded in like this perfectionism and it's all got to be done a certain way. It's sometimes running the back end of my business. But I am really, and that's why I'm so excited about this work. And I'm so excited about what's happening in this work because I just feel like week by week, these women, and I have a global community of women, my clients are all over the world, are waking up. And it's honestly like they're waking up from a decades-long slumber. I literally see it in them and I can hear it. Their voices change, the way they speak, the pace at which they speak, the level of orgasm that they are experiencing in their life, the way they walk, the way they don't have to fill the space with an just because it's uncomfortable. I mean, everything. And then the beauty after that is how the relationships that they partake in get to also then blossom into something even better than they've ever imagined. But I am really ravenous for that kind of female leadership. And when I didn't find her I was like, well, I'll just keep becoming her.
Absolutely.
We become the thing that we so need, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If something's not there, create it.
Yes. Yes.
And that's, again, something that's like really, I think, special to the feminine is creation. And one example, and it sounds so silly because maybe someone's listening and they're like, you're nitpicking and there's nothing different. If you're listening to someone who has something to offer and they're a man, it's not different than if it's a woman. And this is where I'll challenge somebody, is as simple as this habit stacking that everyone is so crazy for to create better habits. And they talk about just wake up an hour early and then do your cold plunge and then do your journaling and all of this stuff. And it's that simple. It's that simple as just setting your alarm clock an hour earlier. That's not true for a lot of women because they take on the majority of the childcare, especially up front. And if you're breastfeeding, forget about it. There's no such thing as a schedule, let alone one that's predictable. So and this is a meme that is just famous on the internet. It's saying me as a mom wanting to have 10 minutes to myself to have coffee. So I set my alarm 10 minutes earlier and then it's your toddler staring at you. It's like they knew you changed your time somehow. So you could wake up an hour earlier and I almost guarantee the baby or the toddler is going to wake up an hour earlier with you, even if you're quiet as a mouse. So for women, it's not this discipline and this structure. It's actually the opposite. It's flow and surrender. So okay, they're up early with me. We're just gonna go with the day. Where can I flow and squeeze these things in for myself? Where can I like do this in a place of surrender and not trying to control everything?
Yes.
And then that's what I think is going to balance your hormones and your mood and help you recover from things from postpartum, not like this stringent.
Yes. And if you read the book Invisible Women, it is incredible and it is prolific I've never read a book that had so much data and research to back pretty much every single sentence that she wrote. But it talks about how all of those theories and all of the diets and the regimes and workout schedules and the cold plunge and the supplements, all of it has been tested on the bodies of men because men have the same, their cycle's not changing like a woman, right? Like women are changing our cycle so often. So we're very hard to study because we're not all the same. But men, because they don't have the hormone fluctuation, they study men and then they do that. They toss like the blanket and say, okay, that's like it's for everybody. This is the research that we've shown. This is the best way to achieve these things. And I mean, on my cycle, like I don't have to, I can't even fathom. We have a cold plunge. I do it occasionally when I feel like it. My husband does it almost he does it like every other day. I can't fathom on a day that I am bleeding there's any desire to get into that cold plunge. I mean, that is like the most and I remember my daughter, oh my gosh, my daughter's unbelievable. Her boyfriend, she was on her period a couple of months ago and they were all at the house and her boyfriend was going to use the cold plunge and they were all, and my sons, everybody was going back there. And she's like, oh, there's just no way. She's like, I can't, I'm on my period. And he's like, you know, sometimes you got to make yourself uncomfortable. And she looked at him and she's like, you know, unlike you who needs to fabricate a place to be uncomfortable in your life, I wake up as a woman every day. I already am uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable when I walk to my car late at night. I'm uncomfortable when I'm walking across campus and I'm alone and coming into my apartment. I'm uncomfortable when I have cramps every month. So no, I'm good. I don't really need to force uncomfortable moments on my life. I live with them. I was like, oh, wow. It's just so potent when you think of it through that lens. And so she is in complete, like, I have no desire. I don't have to prove or perform for anybody. I just have no desire to do that. Nothing in my body says, yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of what they call like cross-sex mind reading comes in. So it's men exist in this space where their physical safety isn't normally at risk and they don't see it. Because it's not their reality, mostly speaking. Right. For women, it's the opposite. All those things that you said are so true. And most girls are taught this to keep them safe. Don't go down this alley. Make sure that there's a light. Have your phone. Check your door. Close your windows. And this leads us to a state of being in constant fight or flight. And we get these autoimmune issues and we wonder why it's so much more prevalent in women. It's because we don't feel safe. Right. But not to blame men, because most men are good. It is a small percentage that are dangerous and violent. And for the good men, they don't understand. So it's the thing that's helped me a lot was having that conversation with my husband. Like, this is the reality that a lot of women live in. So if a woman, they say like women are more critical when the man is driving because of that. So she's just more hyper aware of the risks and he doesn't. So just him being like, I've got this, and just like letting you know that you're safe. So that validation of like, I'm here, like I've got you, and then you can let go. Sometimes that just needs to be verbalized and then the woman can relax. Yeah. So it's not to make her feel like shit because you're obviously safe. And it's not to make him feel like shit like you should know. It's like, how can we work together so that I can know that you've got this and I can relax. And then he is going to want to do that. Most men are going to be light up for that opportunity to show up for their woman and be like, I've got you, baby. Yes. You know, so just to have more open communication and not with like blame or judgment and just like, this is just what it is. And this is what I need. And then he'll be like, I'm so happy to give that to you.
Absolutely. That is something that my husband says to me over and over again. He's like, I love this version of you the past 15 years that just can say, hey, this is what I'm feeling right now. And I think like the best way for you to support me through this is X, Y, or Z. He's like, because before I felt like it was one big guessing game and I was trying to be a mind reader and more often than not, I was doing all the wrong things. But I was in that princess energy of like, well, he should just know how he should figure it out. Right? Like I didn't want to have that vulnerability. I didn't want to showcase that because I had mistaken that vulnerability was weakness. Yep. I didn't actually understand that it was powerful to be able to hold the frequency of it and say, this is what I need. I totally agree. That was me for a lot of my life. And I was I'm reading this book. It's called Raising Lions. It's amazing for anyone that has kids or is working with children. And he talks about the power of vulnerability and where that falls into kind of a hierarchical system. So you'll have someone who's maybe the beta or a smaller pack member. And what you'll see with wolves is they'll go on their back and expose everything vulnerable. What a healthy leader, healthy alpha will do is come over and now take responsibility for that vulnerability and take care of and protect. What you'll see an unhealthy or what you would call like a shadow masculine is I'm now going to rip out that jugular and I'm going to take advantage of the spots that you just showed me. So given, I think a lot of people, including myself, the way that I have just lived life, it has taught me that if I do that, it's going to be used against me. So it created all of these barriers and of ways for people to love me. I'm not going to let you because I know it inevitably will be used against me. And understanding that's not normal and that's not healthy. What is supposed to happen is actually the other thing, which is like that empowering
like coming together and like taking care of. So like vulnerability is the bravest thing you can do.
It is the bravest thing to lay on your back and be like, I'm going to show you all of me, right? And I'm going to trust that you're going to be, the right people will be able to receive that. And there are very few people in life that we do that for. But yeah, I just, it's interesting because at the end of my retreat yesterday, a lot of the women, they were all like, came up and were standing in line to say different things. And they were saying, I've done so much different kinds of work, Amanda. I've been to so many events. I've read every book, and I haven't ever experienced a leader with so much vulnerability as you. And the way that everything you teach us, you don't just demonstrate it, like you go, and they can see, like I enter like a different state. I go into it. I share a lot about my personal life. There were some very vulnerable, beautiful, very tearful moments. But I don't believe that good leadership is on a pillar. I don't believe that the alpha in my belief as how I experience, I wouldn't even say like, I just want to say my leadership. All my leadership is I'm an open channel. Like I am this channel that is open and receiving from the divine. And my responsibility in the world is to share that with more women. So I was saying to them at the opening of the retreat that unlike a lot of leaders, I'll never be pedestalized. That's why at the retreat center I went to, and there were other retreats going on over the weekend, and we peeked into the other rooms to see, they had asked me, we're going to we'll build the stage and then everyone will sit down there. And I said, no. I don't sit on stages. I sit with the people in a circle, with the women. I want to be on the floor with them because I am just in such belief that I'm just sharing wisdom that's coming through me, that I'm not the owner of this wisdom. It's just my lived experience that I can share with them. And I think that is what we are lacking so much of in leadership as well, is that surrendered, feminine, yet so powerful at the same exact time that will walk you through things and you'll feel. Women said to me, I've never in my life felt that safe at a retreat before. I've done so many things and that was the safest I ever felt. And that was also the deepest I was ever able to go. And I'm like, right, because you felt the safety. And I believe that in leadership, we can build safety through vulnerability and we can build impeccable leadership through raw vulnerability. And I don't see much of that in a lot of the leaders that I see right now.
So you have these retreats and these women have these awesome breakthroughs. What's the integration process like?
Yeah, so they have 3 months with me in my community. So they're all like entering today. My team is putting them in there today because integration is so essential to go and have a huge transformation and energetic move through you like that. And then just be like, okay, thanks for coming.
See ya.
Yeah.
If you want to see me again, it'll be another, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's super dangerous. So they have 3 months with me in the Muses community where women who are in there are doing this work, right? And then they also all bought a ticket. I have a live event happening in November in Phoenix, and they all bought tickets to that as well because what they recognize is I never want to step outside of this work. I didn't even know anything like this existed. And now I never want to leave. And I want to meet more women of this like-mindedness and this growth mentality because this is a pretty big thing that is happening right now. I predict something bigger than my wildest dream that I can't find the words or verbalize because I think it's everything that has been happening is so much bigger than I even predicted, that women are coming from around the world to this event in November. And I think we are unlocking some cages that have been inaccessible for thousands of years. And once you start to do that, things change in a way that you can never go back again. So yeah, it's so potent.